Shavua Tov. Welcome to Bet Midrash ShaarHaemet. Today, B'ezrat Hashem, we're going to continue the issue that we spoke last time. Last time we were talking about creation of the world and how Yetzer Hara has an influence, and what kind of influence. Today we're going to go a little bit deeper in this issue in order to know how to learn to perform whatever it says in the Torah in our life and to be safe from bad influence that we do have. Everyone, first of all, we have to know that in the Torah it says Vayitzer Hashem Elokim et Adam. The word Vayitzer, it means Hashem created person, and it's very interesting that the word Vayitzer in Hebrew, it says with one yud, but in this case it was written with two yudim, with two letters yud. So our Chazal say why all the creations they were written with one yud only. Animals, it says Vayitzer Hashem et Behemah, right? Hashem created the animals with one yud. But in this case, it says two yudim. Why there is an extra yud? So Chazal, our sages, they say that the one extra yud was added because the person has two big powers that he has within his soul that always fight. These two powers, they start with the yud also. Yetzer Hatov and Yetzer Hara. Who is Yetzer Hatov? It's a good inclination that a person has, and it tries to help him in his life to make good, only good. And Yetzer Hara, it's a bad inclination that a person has that makes person, like we learned from last lesson, mixed up, not to understand what he's doing in his life. And in the end, what happens that a person sinned and a person transgressed the Torah. Today, we're going to look how does it work. So we'll start from the creation again, that man and woman, they were created when? On sixth day. Sixth day of creation. What happened there? It says, in the end of the sixth day of creation, those words. It's a second chapter of Breshit, beginning. Vaychulu hashamayim v'ha'aretz v'chol tzva'am. Hashem ended to make an earth and heaven and with the earth, and anything that they had. Whatever had earth, Hashem finished to create. Whatever had heaven, Hashem finished to create. Vaychal Elokim bayom hashvi'i. On the seventh day, Hashem finished all his jobs that he was supposed to do, Melachto asher asa, all his deeds, v'yishbot bayom hashvi'i, and he stopped from the work on the seventh day. So be careful how Torah phrases that. Torah says Hashem finished any of his deeds, and then it says in Torah Hashem stopped his deeds on the seventh day. And Hashem blessed the seventh day, and Hashem made seventh day holy, Vayikadesh Oto. Why? Because on seventh day Hashem stopped from all his deeds that he created. So word Vayishbot, it means stopped. What does it tell you? Hashem created everything till the seventh day. And he finished, it says. Vaychal. Vaychal, it means everything was finished. If you finished your job, do you have to stop? Does the Torah has to tell you that you have to stop? No. You finished. And by the way, you stopped. That's it. Because you finished, you don't do anything. Why Torah says Hashem stopped? It means, Rabotai, if Torah says Hashem stopped, it means that there was something that Hashem did not finish. It's unbelievable. We never even thought about this. Every time we make Kiddush, every time we make Yom HaShishi Vaychulu Hashamayim, and we don't think about the words that what we say. It says Hashem finished everything, whatever on heaven, whatever on earth. And then it says in Torah, Hashem stopped on seventh day from doing anything. Stopped, it means in middle of something. Meaning you were doing something, and suddenly time came, you were late, or whatever, and you have to stop. You gotta stop, you cannot continue. So what was there that Hashem created that he did not finish? I read in our holy books that it's very interesting that Hashem finished everything in this world besides one very important part of this world. That the whole world was created for this part. He's a person. Person was not finished. So he will ask me, Rabbi, I looked at myself to the mirror, I'm fine, I know nothing wrong with me. You know, I have 5 fingers on each hand and legs, I have nose, I have ears, eyes, everything is good. So how come you say Hashem didn't finish me? For sure we're not talking about the physical part of the body, because physical part of the body was Hashem created it and finished it. And some say we have to just adjust it a little bit. By doing Brit Milah to the man, we adjust creation of Hashem, even in the body. That question was asked by big Roman emperor, who asked Rabbi Akiva, he said, how could you make Brit Milah to creation of the Hashem? Hashem created man in his image. That's what it says. So how could you damage this image by doing Brit Milah? So he told him, I'll prove you that the man's deed are much more beautiful than Hashem's deed. So he says, I didn't understand you. What do you mean? He says, okay, bring me 2 things. One, wheat, grains of the wheat. And second, bring me a nice cake. So he told them, once they brought it, so he told them, Emperor, tell me, what you would choose to eat between those 2? You would choose to eat this wheat, or you would choose to eat this nice cake? He says, for sure, cake. He said, wait a second. Let your ears hear what your mouth talk about. You just now said that Hashem's creation is much more important than what man adjusted it, right? And Hashem created wheat. But still you choose to eat the cake that made from wheat by man. So that's what Hashem wanted us to be in this world. Hashem created this world complete, besides one. Who? Adam. And Hashem wanted Adam to adjust this world and to make it holy. And by adjusting this world, person adjusts himself, he fixes himself, and that's what called finishing up, the finishing level. You know, if you take a diamond in a nature, it looks like a piece of rock. It's not nice. But once you start to work on him, it becomes smaller, but price goes bigger and bigger and higher. And more flawless you could make him, the price is going to be unbeatable, right? Now, let's say there's a small inclusion in this diamond. Small, piece of dirt that you do not see with your eye. Makes it value lower? Yeah. Makes it its value lower or not? Yes, for sure. For sure it makes lower. For sure it makes lower. But if they give a final touch to this diamond, let's say this piece of dirt on the side of the diamond, that final touch will remove this dirt from the diamond. What happens? Suddenly this diamond becomes priceless. Why? Because you just removed a piece of dust, a little bit. You just made a final touch to this diamond by cutting it. That's it. You made it priceless. That's how Hashem created the man. Hashem created the man not finished, but he was supposed to finish him. Who was supposed to finish the person? Person himself. Now, how you have to finish yourself? you should know, in order to complete and to develop yourself, that's what Hashem wants us to do. Hashem wants us to develop ourselves to the better status, to perfect ourselves. In order to do so, He put one of His angels to take care of it. That we should have a power to do so. And who promotes us to do so? You're going to be stunned. You know whose? It's the Yetzer Hara. And Yetzer Hara comes to test us always. His job is not to make us sin. No, it's wrong. Hashem will never put to His son an enemy that He cannot win. No. His job is only to test us, and by test, you perfect yourself. If you withhold the test, you perfect yourself and you develop yourself to the better line, to the best of your possession. Now, in order to understand how Yetzer Hara does it, we have to go and see how the Torah writes how happened the first sin. For sure, the Torah doesn't write for you the story of Adam and Chava, what happened there. You should know, in face of Adam, you could see any man of the world. In face of Chava, you could see any lady of the world. Now, in face of Nachash, you could see anybody's Yetzer Hara that he has. And everybody has his own, perfect for him, Yetzer Hara. And Gemara says, the Yetzer Hara one person has, that another one could not have this Yetzer Hara. You understand? Meaning, Yetzer Hara is such a creation that it develops such a program that goes and becomes compatible with any person that it deals with, according to his soul, according to his power. Yetzer Hara of Moshe Rabbeinu cannot come to us. Why? Because it's not for us. Each one of us has his own Yetzer Hara, and therefore a person cannot say why he is and I'm not. And how Yetzer Hara does take care of it. So let's look in Torah and let's see how does it go. The first word the Torah starts about Yetzer Hara this way. In chapter Gimel, third chapter, it says as follows. Va'anachash haya arum mikol hayat hasadeh. Nahash was tricky and smart than every kind of animal in the world. Now, Chayat HaSadeh. Why Hashem worded him Chaya? Chaya, it means wild animal. And also the word Sadeh. What word Sadeh tells you? Sadeh, it means a field. Does field has boundaries? No, it's open. Chaya, it's a wild animal. It's not domesticated. Behema, it's domesticated animal. For example, a deer, we call it chaya. And cow, we call it behema. What's the difference between chaya and behema? This is domesticated, and this is not domesticated. This is wild. So what's the difference between domesticated and wild? Domesticated stays in one place, has a small home, has a small boundary. The wild animal has no boundaries. Goes wherever she wants, does whatever she wants to do, eats whatever she wants to eat, and nobody tells her what to do. But domesticated animal has a time to eat, and not everything she could eat. She would like to, but she could only eat whatever the balabait, whatever the owner of this animal gives her. So be careful how Torah uses this. Nachash was trickery, and smarter than every possible animal in the world. Not domesticated. Chayat HaSadeh. Va'anachash haya arum mikol chayat hasadeh asher asa Hashem Elokim. That Hashem created. Hashem created Nachash in order to develop ourselves to become more people. Somebody said to me, Rabbi, it's enough me to be as I was created by Hashem. It's not true. Why nobody says it's enough for me to have money, how much Hashem gave me? Everyone who has $1 million in his bank account, he wants to make from this million how much? 100 million. Oh, well, Hashem. 100. I thought the answer going to be 2 millions. No, 100 millions. You could imagine? So asking you question, how come for money we don't say such a word? And for developing us, ourselves as a people, spiritually developed, we say it's enough, whatever we are. We're good. Why? I'll tell you why. Because this inclination has effect on you. And by the way, this inclination comes, the bad inclination, comes in couple of forms. So sometimes you get confused what to do. And for this, we're given one book that could help you to define who is your bad inclination, who is your enemy, and how to fight him, and how to withstand his pressure. Do you understand? As you know, anything in this world has to be learned. Any job that you go to, they teach you first before you will put on certain job, right? Anything you came here, you were supposed to learn before you do. And anything that you buy even has a book that tells you how to deal, how to work with this or another object that you bought, item that you bought, right? So as we are, the most complicated item of this world for creation was a person. And most complicated than a person, it's the soul of the person that he has inside of him. Now, in order to understand it, and in order to deal with this, you have to know where to learn how to deal with this. If I ask a question now from here, people who are sitting and looking at me, nice people by the way, and if I ask a question, do you know how to live this life? You were given body by your parents, you were given a soul by Hashem, and this now connected together, do you know how to deal with your life? If person is very, he's strong in his belief, he's confident in himself, right? He will tell, yes, I know how to live. And if you ask him how to live, he will say, Rabbi, well, you have to have good car, you have to have good house, you have to have good. Yeah, but wait a second. Reality, is it so? Reality, it's not. Then he tells me, Rabbi, you could get to such a reality if you work. So okay, go work. How much are you going to work? And do you have warranty the day after tomorrow that you continue to live? Do you have this warranty? Nobody could answer this question. Nobody has this warranty. And he is so sure that he could make his good life by working that he doesn't know that the day after tomorrow something might happen, and that's it. All the fantasies became fantastic, and we didn't get them. But I'm not wishing this to this person. No. Just person has to know how to deal with his life, that he's going to do whatever he has to do, not what he wants to do. It's two different things. So let's go back. So he came, we said the Nachash is one who is in charge of testing us in our life. So why Hashem needs us to be tested? We said in order to develop yourself and to elevate yourself. In what to elevate yourself? In spirituality, in holiness. And by this you become a better person. And by this you acquire Olam Haba. Gemara says, for what person gets most of his reward in next world to come? Because eventually after 120 people they leave this world and they go to Olam Haba. Right? For what do you get the most of your reward? Gemara says, for mitzvot lo ta'aseh. For mitzvot not to do. For mitzvot to do, you don't get so much reward. You're getting reward, but not as for not to do. Why? Because to not to do certain things that you want to do, you need certain inner power that holds you from doing it. And it's very hard sometimes. It's very hard. Now, and everybody knows his cases in his life, what is most hardest to do for him, to restrain from doing it, not to do. For example, some people, they very ka'asanim, they have a lot of temper and anger. They cannot manage themselves. It's very hard. Somebody makes them a little bit angry, they blow up like a big volcano. Another, they are not so strong with the ladies. You know, any ladies that he sees, that's it. He can't hold himself. He has to go and find out what's her name. He has to, become friends and etc. All the things that connected with that. He cannot stand himself. He cannot withstand it. So everybody knows his weak points. And now, this one, Yetzer Hara, he is in charge of testing us, not in charge of making us to sin. Be careful. We do sins ourselves, but he tests us. How does he test us? So that's the first formula of the test, how he does it. He looks for your weak point. How do we see in the story of Adam and Chava? Look at this. Nachash, he said, how could I make Adam go against Hashem? Hashem told them not to eat from certain tree, right? Don't eat from this tree. Now, to tell him to eat from other trees, it's not a big deal. It's not a test. When the test comes, where the prohibition is, right? So comes the Nachash, and he starts to talk to who? To Adam? No. Where he goes to talk?
Chava.
To Chava. Why to Chava?
Weak.
Right? Why are women always first? Right? Ladies always first.
Exactly.
That's what Nachash said. The first who said it was Nachash. Ladies always first. But he meant it in different way. He didn't mean it in manner of respect. He meant it in manner of to make Chava sin. And look at this. He comes to Chava. Why? Did you ask yourself this question? First thing that you learn from this sentence, that the Yetzer Hara looking for your weak point. It might be your wife, it might be your fiance, it might be your sister, it might be not woman. It might be something else. But what do we learn here? That the weakest part for the man is who? Is a lady. Right? His wife. Because when man is together with his wife, he doesn't think about anything. Like we said last lesson, that he loses his conscience a little bit. A little bit, not a lot. That's enough for Yetzer Hara, to lose your conscience. As long as you lose it. Then he knows what to do with you. So he comes to Chava, meaning he looks for your weak point. And he starts to talk to her. What he says? What? Hashem said not to eat from any tree of this garden? You see the question? You see the attack? You say to yourself, wait a second. Hashem said to eat from every tree. Mikol etz hagan tochlu, Hashem says. From any tree you could eat. Only one tree is prohibited. How he comes? He says everything is prohibited. So what's the difference? Who will answer this verse? You see, if you don't know how to answer this verse, till today also didn't answer, till I started to dig up into this Pasukim and to see what Torah wants to tell us, Rabotai. We have to read it very carefully in order to know his ways. Because over there, in the Torah, all the secrets of his ways, if you know how to read it properly, you will know how he comes to attack you. Yetzer Hara always talks through imagination, not through the knowledge. Do you understand it? Last time we explained that once we have three spheres where Yetzer Hara tried to hit Adam Rishon. Spiritually, we have Chokhmah, we have Binah, and we have Da'at. What Chokhmah is? It's a wisdom. What Binah is understanding. What's Da'at? When a wisdom connects with understanding together, there's a third sphere created. What it is, Rabotai? It's Da'at. Da'at, it's knowledge. You learned a lot of material, then you understand it, then you know it. That's what's called Da'at. Yetzer Hara never talks through Da'at. He always talks through imagination. In order to prove it, I would like to bring you an example for that. Company Ford made a new make of the car. They made a new model of the car. And they try to convince people to buy it because that's all a business is. They do something new. So now what do? You do advertisement. So they did advertisement. They wrote all the best points of this car on big posters. And they put it all around the place that they were supposed to sell this car. And what do you think? Sales didn't go. Sales of the car didn't go. It didn't affect the people. So they came to psychologists and they started to talk to them and say, what's wrong? It's the best car, best performance, we wrote everything down, people read it and still they don't buy it. Because psychologists, they know the secret. What they told them? To whom you spoke? They said to people. No, he didn't understand the question. To whom in the people you spoke? You spoke to imagination of them or you spoke to their knowledge? You spoke to their knowledge. You gave them best points of the car. But it doesn't affect them. Why? Because if a person goes with the knowledge, yeah, it's the best point of the car, but still I don't have money. Because he's in the knowledge. But once you start to talk to them through imagination, you will succeed. And they say, what we should do? They should say, okay, you make a nice picture of the car that you want to sell. And next to the picture of the car, you put nice lady. It's interesting, huh? Doesn't go the same way with the Yetzer Hara? Does it remind you something, the story in the Torah? Does it? Maybe? Why? Why? You could imagine it's so perfect. And they did it. And they wrote only two words. The best Ford. And they put nice picture, sparkling, with a nice half-naked lady, no imagination. Yeah, because already we start to do it. And what happened? Sales went crazy. Why? Because they spoke to imagination of the person. How could you make the person to do something? You know those people who come to advertise certain things in your house? How they do it? They come, they show you, imagine, look at this, how does it work? And once you see, you think, really? Why I didn't buy it before? Because in your mind, you don't think what they're trying to do. They're trying to get your money. That's all. They don't care what you do with this. They sell it, that's it. They did their job. They work with a dot because their job is to sell. But you work that time when you buy it with imagination. So, oh yeah, yes, really, I would need it for this, for this, for that. And even you don't have money, you buy. How whole America lives? Tell me how they live. Credit cards. Why? Why? Do you know why? Because it makes you to imagine that you do not spend anything. But really, if you go to Da'at, you know when you get to Da'at? When you get your bill. When you get your bill, thousands of dollars of the debt that you have, you get suddenly to Da'at. How could I spend so much? Then you ask yourself smart, knowledgeable questions. Do you understand it? Now be careful. How Yetzer Hara gets to the person. So the Ford succeeded it. Ford made very fine job. They put nice girl next to it. How a person thinks when he buys this car? What he thinks? Ah, that looks nice. If I buy such a car, who knows, maybe I'm going to have the same girl. That's how men started to think. And they bought these cars. They end up not having those girls, but at least they bought the car. And Ford made a profit. Do you understand how they go smart? Rabotai, this secret is written here. Yetzer Hara goes to man through his weakest points. One of the weakest points is his woman. It's a wife. It's a lady. And imagine, the best, how do you call them, advertisement they made with the ladies. Why? Why? They advertise a burger that a nice lady eating it. So asking question, why? What a burger has to do with a lady? What this has to do with this? I don't know. Why? Why they don't put donkey eats the burger? Why not? No comparison. I'm just asking question. Just to, you see, the chaser da'at, it's missing the point of knowledge. Why? And nobody asks questions. They just go and do. And now, if we will continue, you understand it more and more, how Yetzer Hara works on us. Look at this. Everything is not allowed to eat. What he builds now? That everything is prohibited. Just imagine as everything is prohibited. So what Chava answers him, yet, she didn't get punched from Yetzer Hara yet. She says, no. Hashem said we could eat from any tree. Just one tree we cannot eat and we cannot touch. So now, Yetzer Hara left all the trees because she said everything is permitted. Anything that permitted, Yetzer Hara will not come against it. What he started to deal right away with? Prohibited tree. Oh, you said this tree is prohibited? But wait a second, you said everything is prohibited. What happened with that? Right away. Because she blew out his first imagination, his first attack, he was supposed to build a second one. And he succeeded. How did he do it? Look at this, what he says to her. Really? Hashem said not to touch it? Just imagine, you could touch it. Look at this. Because really Hashem didn't say not to touch it. Hashem said not to eat from it. Right? So he goes to the tree and started to touch the tree. You see? Nothing happens with me. Just imagine. It doesn't happen with you also. You could touch it, nothing will happen. Chava still didn't want to touch it. And what did he do? It says that Nachash came and pushed her a little bit. He went around her. She was afraid, right? Not to touch him. Negia, Shomer Negia. You're not allowed to touch the Nachash. Yetzer Hara, you cannot touch. And she was like, hey! And suddenly, she touched the tree. No, said Yetzer Hara. What do you see? As you touched it, you didn't die. The same thing will happen while you're going to eat it. You're going to eat it, also not you're going to die. What is making? He's making a new fantasy now for her. A new imagination. You're not going to die. And then, once you eat it, I know why Hashem told you not to eat it. You know why? Because Hashem knows when you're going to eat it, you're going to be smart as Him. And Hashem, you could imagine how He talks? This was Adam and Chava on their level. They were on their level. He could talk like this to them. On our level, he doesn't talk like this. He makes his volume a little bit lower. But over there, he says, yeah, you're going to be like Hashem. You're going to be creating the worlds. What worlds he was talking about? Tell me, what worlds he was talking about? Could we create a world? No? Ask yourself a question.
No.
Yes, we could. And we do create the worlds. Every child that was born on this world is a new world. Because every child, he was saying truth to her. Now he's saying truth. But you know what the problem is with this? The truth that he was saying to her, it was already with shining imagination. Do you understand it? Many times, you probably, ladies, they see the sale papers, such a nice look and everything is good. As long as you go to the C's or to those stores, to they provided sale for you, and you see it's not the same, and you're still convinced to buy it. Why? Because you still have imagination from the how they make it so juicy. They make a best Florida oranges on a picture. You go to the store, they worst Florida oranges, and you still buy them. Why? That's what it is, to build an imagination. Do you understand? Whole world is like this. If you're going to be smart, how to make your imagination to be slave of your mind, not your mind to be slave of your imagination. If you're smart enough, you will understand my words, what I'm saying now. Meaning, if you smart enough to make your imagination work for you, you're going to succeed. If you're not smart enough to make your imagination to work for you, you will work for your imagination. And that's what whole destruction of the person comes. My words are very deep, and in order to understand them, I'll bring you a couple of examples later. You will see that that's what real truth is. And that's how Yetzer Hara gets us. And that's how he doesn't let us leave life of Torah, making us busy in his imagination. Do you understand? Tell me why people, they don't so much with life of Torah. First reason, they don't learn. They don't know. Second reason, they know, they don't do. How come? You know why? Because they're busy with their imagination. And then don't realize it sometimes that they're busy with their imagination. Even those of you just looking on your phones now. Why? You're busy with your imagination. You're still thinking. You cannot concentrate on a lesson because you're busy with your imaginations. And those imaginations, you don't even realize it for now. But as long as you're going to be listening to this lecture a couple of more times, you will realize it. It's true. And if you go home and try to concentrate on one thing, on name of Hashem, you cannot do it for 2 minutes. Try 120 seconds. Close your eyes and imagine the name of Hashem in front of you. Yud Kei Vav Kei. Try to do this. If you could do this, it means your soul is mitukenet. Your soul is developed. If you see in the middle of those pictures or other pictures that you saw, it means your soul is not developed, or better to say destroyed. Your soul is an imagination of Yetzer Hara. You cannot concentrate even on anything. If you want to test it, you just could test it in your prayer while you're standing and praying. How many thousands of thoughts go through your mind? Not at a test. What to talk about the people who don't pray at all? But we're talking about people who pray. You're standing in the tefillah, and suddenly you're on your website, suddenly you're in Paris, suddenly on your bank account, suddenly you have to give money to somebody, suddenly all those thoughts, they go through your mind. Why? Because you're busy. Your mind is occupied. By who? By this Yetzer Hara. Our job is to develop ourselves, to make our minds so strong that it cannot disturb us with nothing. You could imagine? That's how you become a prophet. A Rambam says very interesting line in Ilchot of Yesodei Torah. He says you should know that one of the beams of belief, one of the fundaments of belief that we have, basics of belief, that Hashem talks to people. Meaning, the prophecy. Hashem brings the prophecy to people. How he talks. How you could be prophet. Is it possible to be a prophet? So Rambam says yes. But to be a prophet, you have to have certain criteria. And one of the criteria Rambam brings, you have to have very wide mind, no narrow mind. Most of the people, they have narrow mind. Wide mind, wide spectrum of mind, and very fine and not disturbable mind that you cannot disturb, that always connected to Hashem. If you disturbed by something, you cannot be connected to Hashem and talk to Him. Did we have such a people? Yes. One of them is Moshe Rabbeinu, is the best of the prophets that we had, and no one could be like a prophet like Moshe. And Eliyahu Navi, and David, Shlomo, they are prophets. Shmuel Navi, Yoshua bin Nun, we had a lot of prophets. How? They developed their mind so much they could not be disturbed while talking to Hashem. We cannot concentrate even on small point. Even now, while I'm talking, certain people just fly in their imagination and they don't think about what I'm talking at all. And some people, they ask, why did I come here at all? Do I have reason of coming here? But you should know, this is the first feeling of Yetzer Hara that talking within you said, why did you come here? For what? You see, nothing comes out. The rabbi talks and talks. What comes out of it? But you will see. Once you start to learn this lecture a couple of times, 3, 4 times listen to this, you will imagine that you made big mistake. And this lecture could be crucial in your life to change way of and style of your life. Now, so he pushed her to do sin, pushed her to the tree, and suddenly, look to the picture, it says, suddenly how woman reacted. She went into real imagination. ותרא האישה כי טוב העץ למאכל. And the women saw that the tree is so good to eat. Can you tell me, how could you eat by seeing? How could you taste good taste by only seeing it? Would you do so? If you didn't taste, can you tell me the taste of this thing? You didn't taste it. You just saw it. Suddenly it says, the woman saw the tree is good to eat from. How could you know? Doesn't remind you a nice picture of good burger? When you look at it, it's so beautiful. It's Adobe Photoshop enhanced with the sparkles of juice, and suddenly it's enough for you just to see the picture that you have your saliva developing in your mouth. And you go like, I'm buying it, that's it. I gotta buy it. That's you what influenced by? And you could imagine that's what Chava was already. Rashi says it in 2 lines. What did she see? What? Before she didn't see. Rashi was bothered one question. She didn't see this tree before? Did she see this tree before? Yes. What suddenly now it became good and tasty to eat from? Do you understand the question? Do you know what Rashi answers? Now she saw words of Nachash. She didn't see the tree, no. Now she saw the new tree. That the Nachash made it nice. Beautiful. Before she saw the same tree, she saw it. But because the tree was prohibited, she said, you're not allowed to eat from it. That's it, she didn't pay attention. But now, Nachash saw her. He showed her that she's not going to die from touching it. Means also, imagine, you're not going to die from eating it. And it's so beautiful to be like Hashem, to create the world. And it's so beautiful to be powerful. It's kind of a beautiful things on this tree growing already. She said, wow, so tasty, so beautiful. And she grabbed it and ate it. That's it. Do you understand the way how bad influences you? Do you see it? Imagination. Just imagine it. Nice. Good. You're going to the best. A small example. Till now we read the Torah, now examples, in order to understand it deeper. When a person, there's one crucial day in a person's life when a person gets married. Oh, such a day. How could you lose such a day? Tell me, how long does the wedding take?
4 hours.
4 or 5 hours maximum.
Yeah.
Is it true? Yes. Tell me how long the Chatan and Kala, they prepare for this day.
6 months, 7 months.
Okay, let's take an average 6 months. That's what happens here. In Talmud, they used to prepare 12 months. right, for Kala. But anyway, today is faster a little bit. It takes 6 months. So I'm asking question. What do you do those 6 months? Most of doing. What's more important? To make your wedding or to live with your wife in happiness after the wedding? What's more important? After the wedding. Everybody understand it. But why didn't you understand before wedding this? Everybody prepares 6 months for what? For the wedding itself, for 5 hours.
Yeah.
Question, did you prepare for after wedding?
No.
No.
Nobody.
And that's why, that's a reason
Divorce.
why so many divorces today. Because it's nothing to say it's for husband or from the wife. No. They were not prepared. In old times, they used to be prepared by parents. Today, people, they don't like parents. Okay. They go to build their own life. Even if it looks like crooked, but it's still their building. You know, they live in it somehow. They go to the house like this, but they're still living in it. It's good house, it's stylish, you know. Now, why you should spend 6 months for 5 hours, while those 6 months you could spend how to live after those 5 hours? Why? Tell me the truth. Tell me the truth. We're standing today in front of Hechal and we're saying the truth. Why? You know why? Because everything moved and motivated by imagination. Chatan goes to choose for himself tuxedo. Tell me, what's wrong with tuxedo? It's a regular suit, a black suit. What it makes it tuxedo? A different shape of the color and a small shiny line on your pants. And for this, they pay
200.
4 times more than a regular black suit. Why? Why? You lose this money. For what? Tell me what you could do with this. Let's say a regular good suit cost you $300. Is it true? Nice suit. You could buy a nice suit today on sale. $300. Beautiful. Nice one. Black. All right. Now, why you should spend $1,000 for tuxedo? I don't know what the price is now. Do you know what the price is? More. $1,500 for tuxedo. Why don't you spend this money after wedding to your wife? Huh? Why not? Good question. People don't think about this. Why? Imagination. How everybody is with tuxedo, and I'm going to be without tuxedo. What people going to tell about me and talk about me? Imagination. You see how people move? Kala. She goes to find her a nice gown, wedding gown. How much does it cost? How much she wears it, by the way?
Couple of hours.
4 hours. After wedding, she probably gets a little bit bigger. Yeah, you're right. So what happens? No, because she has to continue the generation. So cannot fit in it anymore, and that's it. It's gone. So what they do? Yeah. $2,000-$3,000 or more, maybe, I don't know how much. $5,000 now for 4 hours. Just give it away. For what? Now, what, Rabbi, you going to tell me just to go in regular white dress? No. You could go to Gemach. You know, there is a special places in Borough Park.
Yeah.
They have very tsanua and nice dresses for a couple of $100. You're going to be the same looking nice kala, but you're going to save a lot. No, we have to go into imagination. What, you are cheap? You're going to take me to Gemach? You see how they think? They don't think rationally. They think by imagination. So somebody told me, if you could, why you should not? I said, why you should? Why? Okay, you could. Why don't you give this money to tzedakah?
Yeah.
Or let's say there's a poor family that you could feed for 1 year maybe for that money.
Yeah.
Why don't you do this? For example, we have a kollel in Eretz Israel. We're paying them a yearly like around $4,500 for 1 year for the family, and you spend it just for 4 hours. Fun. Why? Why it happens? You know why? And how long he was supposed to work for those $5,000? Tell me. It's mamash. You perform the pasuk. It says, as it says in Torah, בזיעת פעפיך תאכל את הלחם. With your sweat on your face, you're going to eat your bread. Is it true? That was a curse of Adam. Adam got blessed by Hashem. That with the sweat on your face, $5,000 you make at least for 2 months. With all expenses, let's say 3 months. Is it true? Just to put to the savings $5,000, you do it for 3-4 months. So tell me, worth it? 3-4 months? Now, we're not talking about the wedding. This is only preparation. Now, they go buy a ring. Okay, ring, it's a personal issue with the lady, so we're not going to talk about this issue. Everybody there is a sensitive issue. Everybody has to choose for his wife what she's happy with. But, if you're not getting the ring that your friend got from her husband, and that's why you're not happy with your fiancé, it's not good. You're not thinking with your dad. You're thinking with your imagination. What? Tomorrow I'm going to walk into the shul. First thing, older girls, what they do, they look to the finger, this finger that goes down from heaviness of the stone. Right? And then they say, that's all? That's what he gave you? And I'm going to be embarrassed. Tell me, what is this? Is it that or is it imagination? Imagination. Now, in order to prove you that it is imagination, let me tell you a story about the righteous woman that we had, Rachel. Tell me, what kind of diamond? Today? Rachel of Rabbi Akiva or Rachel Imenu? Okay, but she was a Gilgul of Rachel of Rabbi Akiva, by the way. And Baruch Hashem Min HaShamayim, we speak about her. Min HaShamayim Rabotai. So it means we just navigated from top. So what it says, Rabotai, that Rachel, wife of Rabbi Akiva, future wife, she was very young girl, around 18 years old. But she was very smart and clever. Her father was one of the richest men, wealthiest man of Yerushalayim. And imagine how wealthy he was. He could support people of Israel for 24 years. Excuse me, if you find a person today who could support all nation of Israel for 24 years, you would tell you it's unbelievable wealth. To support all people of Israel for 24 years. Okay. So suddenly, he had a worker, his name was Akiva ben Yosef. Akiva was a shepherd, divorced, 40 years old. Divorced shepherd. He was working, but what one thing that Rabbi Akiva had that time, that he was very trusted and truthful person. He was trusted and truthful person. He had good midot, good qualities. He was ready to help anytime he needed to. In the middle of night. That's what was Rabbi Akiva. When Rachel, day by day, was looking at him, she was not looking to the best guys outside of the street, best rabbis, best ministers, and etc. Like their level people. Every time somebody would come to make matchmakers, used to come to Kalba Savua to ask for her daughter's hand to get married to somebody, she would say, no, I don't like this guy. I don't like him. I don't like him. And imagine whom she liked? Rabbi Akiva. Why? Because she never was in imagination. She always thought rationally, this person is good, a utensil to have a Torah in him. He's just perfect. And tell me, did she make mistake? No. Today's Talmud that we have, it's because of her, because of Rabbi Akiva. How? Talmud was written 1500 years ago. But Rabbi Ami, Rabbi Ashi, there was finished Talmud. Those are Amoraim, the students of Tanaim. The Talmud came out as an explanation of Mishnah. Mishnah was written by Rabbi Yehuda Nazir Rabbeinu HaKadosh, Rabbi HaKadosh. Rabbi HaKadosh was student of Rabbi Meir, and Rabbi Meir was student of Rabbi Akiva. That's all. And Rabbi Akiva became Rabbi Akiva because of Rachel. Why? Because she was not in a world of imaginations. She was in a world of doubt. She said, why I came here? I came here to develop a man, to be help to develop a man of Torah for the old generations after. And who is this? Him. How did she see? He had good qualities. He had a big potential. What happened? Look at this. She comes to her father. She went to Rabbi Akiva. She approached him and she said, Akiva, I have to tell you something. Yes, I'm listening. He thought she will tell him, go and bring me a couple of, things from the garden, because he was a worker at home. He says, Akiva, would you like to have me as your wife? He was shocked. He's a divorced man, 40 years old. What she's talking about? Would you like, she repeated, would you like me have for yourself as a wife? She didn't know what to answer, so he nodded with the head. Yes. He didn't know how it's possible. This is a young girl asking me this question. Rabbi Akiva thought he's in imagination. It was reality. So she says to him one thing. Tonight, there is a condition. One condition only. I don't care about anything. You're going to learn Torah if I'm going to be your wife. He said, deal. You're going to be my wife? Let's go. I'm learning Torah. What do you think? So she went to her father to acknowledge her father now. My father, I would like to get married. Say, yes, really? Who is this happiest guy? Tell me. He's a chief minister's son? No. He's chief rabbi's son? No. He's probably local Rosh Yeshiva's son? No. Oh, come on, stop playing with me. Tell me already, who is this? A young man. She said, he's not so young. Suddenly his face changed, Kalbasavua, and he says, who is he? He says, your servant, Akiva. What? He said, or me or him. If you get married to him, I make a neder that no penny goes to a pocket from my wealth. Tell me, she thought about diamond ring that moment? Nah. She thought about real diamond of the world. Akiva. She said, I'm giving up for whole wealth for him. This is real diamond. Did she say she make mistake? No. She got the real diamond. The zchut that whatever I talk now because of Rabbi Akiva, any Torah that we learn it because of Rabbi Akiva, as I told you. His student was Rabbi Meir. Rabbi Meir's student was Rabbeinu HaKadosh. Rabbeinu HaKadosh wrote Mishnah, and Talmud, his explanation of the Mishnah, was written afterwards. You could imagine what is this? So what do you think? Where they went to live? They went to live in certain place that nobody today would live. If I tell you, it's a miracle. Where? The horse house. Where the horse stable, Stable of the horses and the cows. So what they did from this studio, they made one bedroom. In one, place, there were horses and cows. And second bedroom was for the newlyweds. Who? Akiva and his wife. She came out of the house of her father with only clothing that she has on her body. Because her father gave a neder, an oath, not to give her a penny from his money. And he did it so. She left the house. She went to live in such a disaster with Rabbi Akiva. Just because of what? He was supposed to go to learn Torah. What do you think? Next morning he wakes up. Sheva Brachot, finished. So she says, Akiva, you remember? We were talking about you should go to learn Torah. So go. Say, not today, tomorrow. She says, okay. Tomorrow, he wakes up late, prays late. What happened? She started to go deep into soul of Akiva and find out why he doesn't want to do it. Before the marriage, he wanted. Now he doesn't want. What she thought? What you would think for the moment? Oh, he used me. He used me. He really used me. He promised to me to go to learn, and now he's not learning. And now I'm in trap. Why? Because I got married to this man. I cannot go out without get, and that's it. What I'm going to do? She didn't lose the hope. She was a smart woman. She didn't live with imaginations. She lived with the chokhmah, binah, and da'at, knowledge. She started to acknowledge what his problem is. And she found out that his problem was, she started to speak to him nicely. Tell me, you're probably embarrassed. What bothers you? You wanted so much to go to learn Torah. And do you know what he said? Tell you the truth, I'm embarrassed because I cannot read. The same Rabbi Akiva that we have all Talmud today because of him. And by the way, Zohar was written by student of Rabbi Akiva, Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai. The whole Zohar also from Rabbi Akiva because his student wrote it. He was embarrassed because he could not read. Imagine. And what happens, Rabotai? Rabbi Akiva says, I'm embarrassed to go to learn. Why? Why are you embarrassed to go to learn? Small children, I don't know Aleph Bet. I'm 40 years old. I'm going to be sitting with the 3, 4, 5 years old people, children, and to learn Aleph Bet? Everybody's going to make fun of me. So she understood what Rabbi Akiva meant. And what she did in the morning, she put on a donkey that they had, only donkey that Rabbi Akiva had, put a little bit mud, and to the mud of the color of the donkey was the same. She covered the donkey, the mud, and made a hole in a covering, and put some plant. And when they went to the city, she said, come to the bazaar. We will go to the market. They went to the market and everybody was like, wow, look at that. Have you ever seen that the donkey has growing tree on himself? Everybody was like stoned. And they didn't know what to, they were laughing and, wondering what happens. First day they came, they went home. Somebody gave them money for that, they made some money, a good show, attraction. Second day they came, third day they came. Fourth day, nobody was laughing already. Everything was regular. They came, nobody was looking at the side. And suddenly somebody came, new one, to the market, said, look, everybody look, it's a miracle. The donkey has a tree growing on him. They said it's not a miracle. There are donkeys with tree, there are donkeys without the tree. It's not a miracle. So Akiva said, I understand, Rachel, what you're trying to say to me. You're trying to say to me that the people will laugh and they will stop. I'm going to learn. He went to learn, Rabbatai. Then he started to learn so much that the local rabbis for him was not already for him. He went over them. He said, I have to leave to learn to another place. She said, go. 12 years. He left her wife, his wife, with 2 kids. A couple of kids they had. And went away. He had a daughter and a son, according to some source. And they went away, Rabotai, to another place. He went away to another place for 12 years to learn Torah from Rabbi Eliezer Gadol and to learn Torah from Rabbi Yehoshua. You could imagine 12 years not to have a husband at home? Just imagine. You cannot imagine such a thing. It's not understandable, Rabbi. What are you talking about? My husband 12 minutes late, I'm already, I don't know what I'm going to do with him. Why? Because we live in imagination. She lived in that. And imagine what happens. He comes back after 12 years with 12,000 students. It's not 20 people who sits here. It's 12,000 students. Army of people come after Rabbi Akiva. And what happens? Rabotai, 12 years, 12 only. Then he went home. And suddenly he hears his wife talking to someone. You know, those people who live by imagination. And this person was trying to make his wife to regret what she decided to do. He said, your husband left you. This is Yetzer Hara, how he talks. He never will come back. He probably got married. What could you think the man could be without a woman for 12 years? Are you not normal? You have to think rationally. He left you. What she answers? If he would hear me now, that I let him go back and learn Torah for another 12 years. Could you imagine? He heard it. The moment he was passing by his house, he turned away and left house for another 12 years. When he came back after 12 years, with 24,000 students already, everybody came to greet a holy man, Rabbi Akiva. Rabbi Akiva that used to bring the fire from the heaven. And what happened, Rabotai? His wife also came. The students, they tried to, avoid her going through them. Between the man, woman, and Rabbi Akiva saw her. He stood up. He said, leave her alone. Let her come to me. Whatever I have and whatever you have, it's hers. And imagine 24,000 people stand up for her. That's a respect. That's a real respect. It's not imagination. It's real respect. She goes to him. And imagine Rabbi Akiva has 24,000 students. His father-in-law heard that a big person came to the city. And he saw how his daughter is suffering from the man that left her, Akiva. And Rabbi Akiva at that time already changed, with a beard, white beard, he's already 64 years old. So he came and he said, Rabbi, I need to tell you a whole story of my life. And he started to tell him the whole story. And Rabbi Akiva, he doesn't recognize that this is Rabbi Akiva. He thinks Akiva is still Amaretz. He doesn't know anything. He doesn't know how to read. And what happens? He told him the story. And he said, what should I do? I gave an oath, promise not to give a penny to my daughter. And my daughter is suffering. I have a lot of money I cannot give her because of oath. Can you nullify this oath? Can you cancel it? So I told him, okay, tell me please. If you would know that Akiva is big Talmid Chacham now, would you give such an oath? He said, if I would know he knows one Mishnah, one Pasuk, I would not give such an oath. Meaning Rabbi Akiva didn't know anything. He said, okay, you should know. Your son-in-law in front of you. That moment he was shocked. Right away he took out the checkbook and wrote all his money to Akiva ben Yosef. That's the one place that Rabbi Akiva became rich. All his money he gave him. He said, if it's true, this is yours. My daughter made true and right way. She was right. She was right, my daughter. Rabotai, this story just come to tell you how not to live in imaginary world, in fantasy worlds. She did a great job. Because of this great job, we have a Talmud today, Rabotai. It's worth to lose the stone, but to get such a job done, huh? For generations, you remember. Tell me, if the local, regular lady, she got a good stone, she passed away, nobody remembers her. What she did in her life? She got a nice stone, 20 karat, deep flows. That's it. Rabotai, that's what his whole point of Yetzer Hara. And now, what happened after the seed? That's what actually was the shiur about. She ate it. She continued to imagine. It says when Adam was with her, she gave it also to him. Asking question, why? Wait a second. You ate it already, right? You ate it. So you acknowledge that you're going to die. Why are you giving to Adam? What Rashi says? Unbelievable line. If I will die, maybe he's going to get married to somebody else.
There's nobody else.
You understand this line? Why she said such a thing? Rashi brings a midrash. This is a midrash, Rabotai. Because she continued to imagine. Imagine she gets married to somebody else. No, I'm not going to let him to marry somebody else. He's going to die with me. Why? Tell me, is there any other woman in the world?
No.
That time?
No.
Besides Chava? No. What are you imagining? Or you would say Hashem would create a new woman. So, you were not worthy of it. You ate, you transgressed the law. That's it. She didn't think already. She gave it to him. When? When he was with her, it says in Torah. Meaning, in relationship. When mind of the man a little bit moved and put it on a shelf, that he doesn't use his mind anymore, then when they are together, his mind a little bit not conscious. And because it's not conscious, that moment she uses. It's a way of Yetzer Hara. You're not conscious. You're not using your da'at. You're not using your knowledge. You're using your imagination. And what happened thereafter? She gave him. The Bad Medrash says very interesting. There's no word in Torah for nothing. It says Vetiten gam liisha. She gave also to her husband. Why do you use word also? Say she gave it to her husband. Why it says also? Talmud learns from it that the word also means also for animals. She fed this fruit to animals. So asking question, why? What animals has to do now? What kind of reason you have? What kind of imagination now you have? That's the next step of the sin. The first step of the sin is to sin. To go into imagination, and because of this imagination, don't use your dad, you become mebulbal, you become confused. That's how you fall into a sin. After you make a sin with a reason. She had a reason, valid reason. Adam going to get married, I have to kill him. She gave in. Now, after you did second level of the sins, to do out somebody else to sin, to make somebody else to sin, you made third level of the sins. To make bad in the world with no reason. Just to make bad. Bad. No reason why. Why you do it? Why do you give to animal? What animals has to do with that? Just make bad. And what it says in the end of the parasha? Ki yetzer lev adam rak ra kol hayom. The way of inclination of the person, only bad whole day. They had the professors in generation of Noach, what bad we didn't do yet. What bad we didn't do. What wicked we didn't do yet. Meaning they did so much wickedness in the world, they had the professors to think what they didn't do. Rabotai, today we spoke about how Nachash comes to the person. That's the 3-4 pasukim in Torah. He comes to you through your imagination. Woman goes to the store to buy nice dress. She doesn't think so much about her. She thinks how others go to see this dress on her. Why? Tell me, why you buying yourself dress? To dress up. That's the reason you buying yourself dress. You're not buying that somebody else should look at you. But if you buying only because of reason somebody else could look at you, you could have 1 billion dresses in your wardrobe and you don't have anything. So this, it's not for me, not for me. Why? Because nobody looks at it. But if you buying the dress to dress in it, just only because of to dress in it, that's the ultimate reason of it, you could have only one dress. And you could be happy for your entire life with this dress. Do you understand it? My words might be strange for you. Well, Rabbi, not to buy dresses? No, don't go to extremes. You could buy the dress. Question is, why? What motivates you to buy? Your mind or your imagination? If it's your mind, you should know you're buying it for good, valid reason. Because your dress became old, you're buying a new dress. If you're motivated by your imagination, how you're going to look like in this dress, and how people going to compliment you in this dress, so any dress going to be after one use, old. Another one, and another spending of money, another work, another time. Rabbi, I have no time to learn Torah. Do you understand why? Because you live in your imaginary world. And this imaginary world is a world that surrounds us. Yes, that's what it is. You go any advertisement, anything, it's imagination. It's not the truth. The truth is only when you have clear mind, when you could think properly and clearly. That's when the truth comes. And that probably we're going to learn how to do next year. Now, in order to, the same thing, young people. Young people, they're too much in imaginations. Tell me, young people, they work just in order to get a nice car, cool car they call it, and to drive around with a high volume of boomboxes in this car, and to wake up everybody in a neighborhood at night with the girls. Why they do so? They have reason of it. They don't think about others. Imaginary world makes you forget about others. You should know this. Person with right mind, he will never put a high volume music at night while people sleeping. Why? Because he would say, wait, would I like that somebody should bother me in my sleep with music? No. Why I should bother others? That's how mind speaks. An imaginary world how speaks, as long as you enjoy it. Just forget about everything. Relax, we call it today. Right? And because of relaxation, other people, they do not relax. Do you think about them? No. Why? You're in a different world. Your mind doesn't work. And that, as I said last shiur, first thing that we ask from Hashem in our prayer, Baruch Atah Hashem Chonen Da'at, Hashem, give us right mind. Give us right mind. Once you get this right mind, you could make tshuva. If you don't have right mind, you cannot make tshuva. You're still going to be in your imaginary world. As I said, hardest thing for the woman to do after she gets married is to cover her head. Why? Tell me why. Because again, the imagination bothers of her dad. She understands it. It's needed. Why? Because that's how Torah Israel is. That's what our Torah is. She understands it's needed. But something bothers her to do it. Why? What? What bothers her? What's a barrier? You know what's a barrier? That's what Yetzer Hara with Chava. That's your weak point, imagination. And by the way, feelings are connected to imagination. Tell me, imagination are good or bad? It depends how you use it. You should have imagination, but question is who rules it? You rule your imagination or your imagination rules you? That's the difference. If you rule your imagination, you could create unbelievable worlds. You could become a music player. You could become a best painter to make nice paintings. You could become a best learner of Torah when you use your abstract imagination. Because all Kabbalah learning is developed on imagination. But over there, it's controlled by that. Do you understand it? And if it's not, you might fall from Kabbalah learning, like Elisha Acher. That's what it is. That's why Rabbi Akiva said, when you go upstairs there and you see water, don't say it's water. Why? Because you imagine it's water. It is not. That place over there in holy spiritual worlds, when you get to these highest levels, you see water, you don't say it's water. Because it's only your imagination. Your eyes make you make mistakes. Don't make assumptions on what you see. Because many times we see one thing and we think another thing, and reality is different totally from what we saw and what we thought. My words today should go into you, and you should understand that in order to get out of this imagination, you have to work on yourself. You have to develop. That's what Hashem didn't do. Hashem stopped from certain job that He didn't finish. He didn't finish our souls. Meaning, we are completed. But we have to develop ourselves to our best potential. We have to bring up our potentials. And this way, Be'ezat Hashem, we could bring Be'ezat Hashem, Mashiach Tzidkenu B'Rabbi